Hey, what is up, Steven? Thanks for adding a video. Yeah, it's helpful. So, wanted to get you something since I asked for a video. So, first of all, um, this just look at your posture here. Like, I get that you're trying to you use every last inch of the T pad, and that's cool. But this is an aggressive forward lean, right? Which is not necessarily a problem, but it seems suspect, and I believe it is causing issues in your throat. So that's the first thing I noticed. And then let's look at your footwork. Oh, look at the cute little butterfly behind you in slow mo. That's awesome. So you keep the forward lean, and then like it's too much. It's too much. And then I pretty much call everyone in the world on this. I think your X step is too big because when it's that big, you have to turn this toe too far backwards, and then as you shift your weight forward, your heel comes down and you have too much forward momentum in your hips. So your head is above your rear toe and your hips are in front of that. So now the rear lean has turned in, or the forward lean has turned into a backward lean, because as you turn around, you're leaning backwards. And then that's problematic because then you're going to end up cranking your spine over your hips in a way that causes all sorts of swing plane issues. So fix the forward lean and just commit to keeping your spine upright the whole time. You will have a forward athletic crunch, but it shouldn't feel like a lean. So your rear foot, you come down onto the heel, and then here, too much of a rear lean, and then you're going to shift onto your heel as you tip forward. So your toe starts peeling up. That means that your rear leg has turned into an anchor and is going to slow down your hip rotation. Your front leg looks great somehow. That's really cool. So you're setting down with your toe a little bit back, your heel a little bit forward. Your front leg is in a very good position to do what it needs to do, and you actually still have a pretty decent brace. But this rear leg extending, let me back up. The rear leg extending has given a little bit of upward momentum to your hips. So here, your hips are nice and low. As you come forward, your knee straightens up. And then as your knee turns in, now watch your front hip. It's going to lift a little bit as you extend your knee. It's like not necessarily problematic, but that little upward motion of your front hip. See how there's a little scoop, hips go down and then up? And some of that is inevitable, but I think it's a little problematic in your case, and it's going to exacerbate other issues. So let me pop to a video that a friend of mine took of our good buddy Drew, and so this was, in Drew's defense, this was a cold throw. This was the only throw he did at a clinic, or the one of two throws he did at a clinic, because he doesn't like to throw at clinics. But just watch his front hip. I'll just play this a bunch and listen to that sound. It's like a gunshot. It's insane. So see how there's maybe an inch of hip raising, but it's not a lot. He's also not bending his knee as much as you. But the point is, we want the hips to glide into the brace and rotate without adding any upward trajectory. So you have a decent amount. So here, look at this still. Your previous lean back in the spine has now switched to a lean forward. So your shoulders are cranking over, which means your swing plane just isn't ever going to be consistent, because your shoulders are moving from tilted back to tilted forward. So your arm is necessarily confused about where it's supposed to be, and you have to do all this stuff to correct to keep your swing plane flat. So let's see what that looks like looking at the disc. So here you're reaching back with the point of your elbow pointed down, which means your elbow isn't in the right orientation to stay on your shoulder plane anyways. I can get you a video on that and do a quick demo for you. So here you're reaching straight back to 6 o'clock, which is potentially problematic. You probably want to reach to 7 or 7:30, so the disc would be 1 hour on the clock face closer to the camera from this viewpoint. So then as you tip forward, the disc is drifting more behind you, getting closer to rounding, and then the disc goes up because you're tipping forward. So as a function of this position here, where your front foot is about 6 inches off the ground, your front heel is about 6 inches off the ground, so that you have to close that distance, right? So your whole body shape has to tip down this way. So as that happens, there's nothing to keep your arm here. So your arm goes up as your leg goes down because you're just tipping this way off of that rear leg. So rather than tipping, gliding, which means this foot is going to be more toes towards the camera and your knee is going to dip in towards center rather than being pointed backwards. That'll help you glide in. That'll make your front hip more level like Drew's and less rising like you're doing now. The rising exacerbates the tipping down, and then rising exacerbates the scoop that you have on the disc. So let's look at the scoop. So the disc comes up, disc goes down, disc goes back up. That's not ideal. We want it to be on one plane the whole time. So part of that's your footwork, part of it's your reach back, part of it's your elbow orientation. Yeah. So let's go over all that, and then I'll actually answer the question you had, which is your off arm. And let's look at your off arm once here to refresh ourselves. But first, the butterfly. So your off arm, in the still you posted, your off arm is like way too high and way too behind you for my liking. Yeah, so it gets 90 degrees behind you. And then it just kind of just hangs out. So that's, I said flagging in that other post, and that's flagging. It's just hanging out there and slowing you down. So we can give you some cues to fix that too. Okay, so off arm and then scooping. So scooping happens when I reach back with my elbow pointed down. I get this, right, where your elbow is lifting up into position. Then as I come forward, all my elbow can do is it can only bend this way. My elbow can't bend sideways. I have to rotate from my shoulder. This is what we want, right? If I'm throwing on this plane, I want my elbow to bend on that plane. If my elbow is pointed down, my elbow doesn't bend on that plane, right? In the video, I do this, right? This is not good. This is good. Because here I'm on the plane I want to throw on. I can stay on that. If my elbow orientation is here, I can't. This is not going to work, right? So you have to do some funny thing to make it work, and it doesn't work. So that's the first thing, is get your elbow, your reach back should be here, where the elbow is at height the whole time. It's not coming to height from below. That'll help with the scoop. Not if I set this up and then I tip forward, I've changed this angle, right? So I would have to compensate, and that's where the scoop comes from. So part of it comes from tip, part of it comes from your front leg looks good, but you're loading it and then lifting the hip. So same thing, right? If I have my arm set here and then I lift my hip, it's going to screw up the arm too. So I want my rear leg to glide me into the brace so that my front hip can just pop here and not have to dump all my weight on the front and then pop up and lift my throw. So elbow gliding into the brace so the hip can stay down, and keeping everything flat on the plane will eliminate the scoop. That's that. On to the off arm. So you're reaching out up way here because presumably you want to use that to crank everything around. That type of rotation is not productive. It just makes you over rotate and collapse into your front shoulder. So instead, what we want to do is really chill out on the reach back position and just get it up here where it's not higher than your shoulder and not more than 45 degrees behind you. So not 90 degrees behind you, but 45. Gives you plenty of room to reach out to 7, not to 6. And then I think about this in timing, and I'm pretty sure I stole this from Trent at Slingshot, but he took down the video, so I'm not sure. I need to ask him if, I'm pretty sure it was one of his, but he took it down, so I can't be sure, but pretty sure credit to Trent on this one. But I got it from watching Drew and copying Drew, which I understand Trent also likes Drew. So 4 beats. Beat 1, offhand comes up. 1. Beat 2, offhand starts coming down and reach back happens. Peak reach back happens. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to reach this hand towards my front pocket, and the disc is going to be pulled not super actively by me, mostly because my heel is coming down, and then I'm going to add a drive with my shoulder muscles. 1, offhand floats up. 2, offhand comes down, peak reach back. 3, hand maxes out in front. 4, hand on its own bottoms out and starts going into a swim move. So it's not that I'm going, okay, I'm done, now swim move. I'm just setting up an arc where it's just going to happen on its own, right? So I'm going here, and it's going to max out and redirect and start coming down. And then I'm going to activate muscles across my back to open my chest and help fling the hand out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, gone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Groovy. So all your offhand is doing is here, and then it's coming down to anchor and bring everything in, right? Here, slow rotation. I'm not going to rotate quickly like that. If I tuck everything in, then I will rotate quickly. So you're just taking advantage of that ice skater effect, right? If your arms are out and then you pull everything in while you're rotating, you'll spin faster. Same idea. I'm just pulling in and then opening up. All right, that's all I got. Good luck. Ask questions if any of that is not clear.